Let's talk about Oklahoma's depth chart ahead of Temple, where we get some questions answered around some interesting positions for the number 16 team in the country, according to the Associated Press. I have them ranked a bit higher. The schedule is the schedule. We know that there are there are 6 preseason AP Top 25 teams on this thing. But one of the reasons I want to talk about Oklahoma's depth chart is because I think it's going to inform how we should look at Oklahoma's first season into the SEC. Probably going to do this for a couple of other schools because, well, frankly, there are these programs that have these interesting depth chart battles going on, to say nothing of what depth is going to look like for somebody playing 17 games to win the national championship beginning this week for the majority of the teams. August 31st, we got games, and then, of course, Labor Day weekend all the way through more or less until January 20th. I know that my attention has been drawn to the offensive line like not a lot of other people, like a lot of other Oklahoma fans, because, well, that's real inside baseball. But one of my peeves has always been, if you cannot name the starting offensive line for your respective team, your opinion doesn't really carry that much weight, because I genuinely believe that well-prepared fans, informed fans, the kind that watch this show, know their offensive line by heart. Now, that said, you can't know the offensive line by heart if there is no depth chart to start with, and we had some battles going on, particularly at left tackle and at center, that really were going to get some attention. I think finding an answer that doesn't have to move Jacob Sexton anywhere other than where Jacob Sexton is good with left guard is great. I think Michael Tarquin, who's transferred from USC, he's going to get an opportunity to really show what he's about. 6'6", 313 pounds, a redshirt senior. I love the maturity. I'm sure Bedenbaugh is working at trying to make that guy into the kind that can protect the blind side of one of the 4 captains on this team. I'm also looking at wide receiver, where we got an interesting ore there, because Brennan Thompson being the ore with Nick Anderson is a welcome surprise. It means Brennan Thompson absolutely had a great summer, a great preseason. And perhaps he's going to be able to compete with Nick Anderson on that level, because I think Nick Anderson has become a bona fide superstar and can take the top off of any defense that he wants to. If you got 2 of those guys, that speaks to the depth that Oklahoma has at that position. Of course, Deion Burks is going to be there. We know about that. I thought tight end Bauer Sharp, also great. Jake Roberts, also great. I'm not that concerned about tight end like a lot of other people might be. I tend to think that Seth Luttrell knows what he's got there, and they're probably going to try to run the ball as much as they can, which leads me to Gavin Sawchuk being the guy ahead of Javonte Barnes. And then we'll see, right? And then we'll see. There's some more moving and shaking to go on over there. Jalil Farouk is still Jalil Farouk. I mean, I think Jaquez Petaway has a chance to really surprise the rest of the SEC, to really make a name for himself, along with a guy coming back from injury who's just nice to see on the depth chart, and Andrew Anthony. So while there's no real CeeDee Lamb there's the capacity for a CeeDee Lamb to break out, a Marvin Mims to break out. I would love to see a 1,000-yard receiver at Oklahoma and a 1,000-yard back at Oklahoma in OU's first season in the SEC. Where I got a little bit giddy is actually at defensive line. And I got a little bit giddy because a couple things stood out to me. One is Coach Saban was talking on the Pat McAfee show last Friday, and he had said he likes Oklahoma. He believes it's a good football team. He loves Brent Venables. He believes they're athletic, but he doesn't think that they're big enough. And I had spoken to this some, but this is kind of reinforcing my point here. Coach Saban is used to a odd front being your go-to, your base, right? Who doesn't love an odd front? As a quarterback, I hate odd fronts. I never can really tell you where the pressure's coming from until I've seen it on tape. And even then, you could run cover 7 and still show me cover 0 if your guys can get back and you got some guys that just can win on one-on-ones, or guys that can lurk and then go make a play on the ball when I just don't see it out there. It's one of those things that really does play with me. It's one of the reasons I really love playing EA Sports College Football on Heisman and an Ultimate Team is I get to be a quarterback again. I get to run coverages, protections, audibles, all those sorts of things. But 3-man fronts are what I use when I can. If you're going to give me a 4-man front, I would like it to look a lot like what Oklahoma has. And the first thing I'm going to point you to is actually counterintuitive, but I think you'll get where I'm going here. You got David Stone at defensive tackle, basically a third string. That's 5-star. That's a guy who's got the capacity to be G.K. McCoy if things continue to develop the way that we think that they will. And you don't have to play him right away as a 2-deep guy because you like what you have there. That's the point there. Grayson Halton and Jaden Jackson at the defensive tackle spot. And then going 312 at nose, 330 at nose, 297 at nose. Go at defensive tackle going 312, going 285, going 295, going 297. On the edge with Ethan Downs going 263, 264, 253, right? On the right side, you got R. Mason Thomas going 243, Trace Ford going 252. Danny Okoye down there at the 4th spot. I mean, we're talking about 245 here. And then my favorite move so far is Desan McCullough to will linebacker next to Danny Stutzman. I am excited about that because I realized that my man is down there on the 3rd string. Kip Lewis has really got the inside linebacker position sewed up, but there's a reason why they moved Desan from the cheetah position to that will position, and I think you're going to see it when they go into some packages that, frankly, I'm excited, man. That's speed and that size everywhere. And then the secondary could be amazing with Peyton Bowen and Billy Bowman forming that safety tandem, and then Des Malone, and it looks like Connie Walker, though it feels like Woody Washington's been playing football at Oklahoma since I was in middle school. That's not true. I did a show with Woody Washington when he first committed to Oklahoma out of Murfreesboro, so that's not true. But you get my point. He's been around for some time. If nothing else, the thing that I would take from this depth chart is that it is an SEC football team. It would have been an SEC football team if Oklahoma was still playing the Big 12, but I think it helps, particularly because you're going to get able to see this matchup against a Temple team that we don't expect to do much. But in a couple of weeks' time, we're really going to see how this depth is going to play in, because my thing about Oklahoma isn't size. Oklahoma runs 4-man most of the time. Sometimes they'll run some odd stuff, but multiple is what you want to be depending on who you're going to see week to week. Give yourself some options on this. And then there are guys that you're just going to have to play every week because they're the matchup, right? If you're not going to take Danny Stutzman off the field unless you absolutely have to, and I can't see them absolutely having to, and those are the kind of players that everybody can spot and everybody knows as superstars. Where Oklahoma might be deficient is being able to rotate in as steadily as Georgia, as even Texas, as Ole Miss. That's where you're going to see the change here. Defensive line, defensive line, defensive line. If you get 8-9 dudes that can rotate in that you trust to go make a play no matter what the situation is, you're building toward a national championship team. It is that difficult to develop that kind of depth on the defensive line. It's the thing that I think Coach Saban has been doing, but one of the other things that Coach Saban is getting used to is he's making a point and he's having to have an opinion about something, and that's not really what he wants to do. What he wants to do is talk ball. He wants to talk process. He doesn't want to talk about outcomes and results. He doesn't want to make predictions. That's the job now, dog. That's why you have people that will on one day say that, you know, they really enjoy you and they really like what you're saying. On the other day, you must be crazy. You must have sold out, yada, yada, yada. I don't think that Coach Saban's honeymoon period is going to make it through the rest of the season, because these things just happen that way. But I do think that if Coach Saban adapts to this like he adapted to spread offenses and tempo, he's going to be amazing. But right now, I think this is also indicative of the kind of punditry that some people claim to hate, because we're not talking about the football that has been played, because frankly, there ain't been a whole lot of football that has been played so far. But my point here is still the same. Oklahoma's depth chart gives me a good reason to believe that they'll be good. I love the way that it's structured. I love the way that it's put together. And I think that you, like I, am going to watch the offensive line and defensive line and then make a judgment call.